All right, hello and welcome back to another video. It's second build time. We're about 2 months and a bit into the league, and finally I've sort of decided the Spark character is over and done with for now, and want to do something new. So we see on our screen right now is this something new. This is a little bit of a wacky build, but it has been very fun and seems quite potent, honestly. This is a Cold Snap Power Lifestack character. So Cold Snap Power is a pretty cool spell. You can see it right here. It's a big like instant blast with just a bunch of AoE, and you can get a bunch of overlaps with it to do a bunch of damage, and it's pretty cool. And then it's using the life stacking shell to get a ton of damage onto that, and we're doing Echoing Shrine memes as well with the belt because I wanted to just try that out. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I figured go over sort of what's going on here. This character's been really well. I was worried about a few things with this character when putting it together because I've been playing this for a few days now, and I was worried about the defensive layers for one not working out, but they actually have been feel really good, and the damage is just also really solid. Like it's just all up front. Like there's no ramp to the skill or anything, so it's you just get immediately what you paid for basically, which feels very good. But yeah, so that's this character. If I could show you what I have so far, obviously this is very early on. I pretty much just put this together and leveled this character like 2 days ago, so things are still subject to change, but worth going over still. Alright, so here is the character. So I guess we can start off by looking at the skill itself. So this is Cold Snap of Power. It's a trans gem of Cold Snap. It's basically just an instant spell with an AoE that has a cooldown, but you can consume a power charge to bypass that cooldown. And then it also has built-in 50% chance to gain a power charge on crit. Obviously, if you then give this the power charge on crit support, this will make that chance go up to 100. With the Abu, actually isn't quite 100. It's a bit less than 100, but with the other stuff I have right now, it's more or less fine. So you can basically make it infinitely sustain power charges on its own as long as you have a target, so you can just spam it infinitely if you get enough power charge on crit chance, which is very easy. So it's quite nice. Basically just an instant skill, no cooldown effectively when you're actually playing, and it does a bunch of damage. On its own, the skill sort of just looks like this, right? When you right click and it does that, and you can see it goes on cooldown after a few repeats there. But then obviously if we spawn as much of a mob so I can get some charges here, you can spam it a bit more. This is one of those things I can't really demonstrate too much without an enemy because obviously I would need some power charges, and without something to hit, won't get any of those, so I can't really display spamming. But as long as there's a target, as you saw in the clips earlier, you can just spam this infinitely basically. But the interesting part about this skill, first of all, the skill itself is just pretty good. Like the damage effectiveness is pretty solid, given the other factors of the skill, and also the base crit is really nice. This is 10% base crit, so it's really easy to crit crap with this, by design, obviously. But then also, this interacts really well with Greater Spell Cascade. So if you're not familiar with this skill, this supports a skill that applies an effect to an area. And then it makes it so that the skill repeats 4 directions around where you click. So basically, it's sort of in a plus shape, right? So, up, down, left, and right, you get 4 more. And the nice part about this is if you're scaling your AoE enough with this skill, this actually makes all those overlap. So there's a breakpoint. I believe it's 4.8 radius from my understanding, AoE for the skill. Then you get a sweet spot in the middle here. Hard to demonstrate here, but there's a middle where your mouse is. If you have enough AoE, all these 5 hits overlap, so you just get straight up 5 times damage with that. So that's a really powerful damage multiplier for Cold Snap of Power. So that's sort of the idea there. You basically get enough power charge generation to where you can just keep holding this down, permanently, and then you make it have enough AoE with Greater Spell Cascade to get 5 overlaps, and it is quite nice. And the skill just feels really nice otherwise as well. Instant cast skill, no cooldown. It's a cold skill, so you get Shatters, which those are really nice, and you get to use Herald of Ice. So it's just naturally really sort of nice feeling skill. Sad I haven't played this before. It's a lot of fun actually. Then we are scaling into damage via life stacking. So life stacking is a lot of damage. I haven't actually life stacked in a while, but yeah, when I was popping this character, I had multiple things I was working on, and life stacking wasn't my first choice, but then I started popping life stacking, and holy shit, the life stacking numbers are just kind of crazy. It just scales really well. But yeah, so the way you scale spells with life stacking, right, is first of all Wrathpith. Wrathpith is just a really powerful item. So obviously it gives you this is a volatile one, but yeah, you get 6% spell crit chance per 100 max life. Obviously we have like 22,000 life, so basically crit caps you just on its own, which is very powerful, and then gives you a bunch of spell damage on top of that per life as well. And then obviously every other stat is also quite relevant in this. And the sacrifice part of this item actually doesn't really matter at all, because which I'll show you later why. So this gives you a bunch of spell damage and spell crits, and then there's the sacrifice support, importantly, and this is sort of the main thing here. This is where you get your flat from with life stacking. So it says supported spells sacrifice 20% of your current life when cast to gain added chaos damage equal to 55% of sacrifice life. So you get a lot of added flat chaos when you get the sacrifice with this amount of life. So you get all your percent from from this, and then all the flat from this, and this is the classic thing, and obviously life stacking gives you just HP on top of that, so it's quite good. But obviously, how are we supporting sacrificing 30% of our life each time we cast a skill with like this fast cast speed? It's hard to demonstrate here, but the character has very fast cast speed, right? So it's going to be eating a lot of this. So there are a few ways of dealing with this. Mainly, it's just using Dissolution. This is something that I was a little bit worried about going in, because Dissolution can feel pretty bad, but basically the way this works, if you're not familiar with this gem, is life that would be lost by taking damage is instead reserved until you take no damage to life for 2 seconds, and then also gives you 30% more max life. So just 30% more life is crazy on a life stacker, obviously. It gives you a ton of life. So basically the way Dissolution works is it replaces the way you die, right? So when you take damage on this, which actually it's going to be hard to show here because glads are just kind of broken, but you can see eventually one of these mobs is going to hit me, right? Surely. There you go. So there's some of them hit me, and you can see I'm reserving some life. I think because I'm standing on degen right now. Yeah, here we go. So you see now I'm taking some damage, so I'm reserving. But now, yeah, 2 seconds passed, and I'm no longer taking damage, but you can see what's happening there. So basically, you can spend however much life you want casting your spells, because this no longer matters. You only die when you actually reserve your life, because no damage goes through the Dissolution, right? The thing that makes this awkward is, like, you can't really, like, recovery doesn't really do anything for your defenses at this point, right? Because it's all just that reservation timer. Things like degen, things like, you know, damaging ailments and things like that get really annoying, so you have to solve for that. But assuming you've solved for that, and especially with Gladiators, this is a Gladiator character, and we're using Lucky Block, and I am Lucky Block capped, so it's 78, 75 attack spell block. So it's like 96% effective block on both or something like that. Because I have played Dissolution builds before that didn't take care of all the different defensive parts of it, and that didn't feel very great because of that. But this actually has felt really good. This character feels like insanely tanky, I think. I you know, got out of leveling and leveled from like 98 to 100 in like these 100% deli, like fully giga juiced breach maps, and I just didn't even get close to dying once. It's like, it's pretty potent. That's how we're dealing with, you know, being able to sacrifice all this life, because no longer is this life pool relevant to defense at all. It's just all, you know, the actual raw pool and getting reserved, so it doesn't actually matter sacrificing all this life. And then this life, obviously, you have to recoup it somehow. Another nice part about Dissolution is it lets you use Eternal Youth. So this is a part of this. Eternal Youth makes it so that your ES recharge applies to your life instead. And obviously the way recharge works is it only starts happening if you haven't taken damage for a while. And since it transfers all of that over to life, with the Dissolution of the Flesh, the way that works is as long as the reservation from the damage you're taking isn't cutting off the amount of current health you have, it doesn't count as you taking damage. So it's pretty nice, because when you're actually casting this, you're pretty much always going to be like around half health or whatever, because you're just sacrificing all your life constantly. So your reservation is never going to cut into your actual like health pool, so it's never going to count as you being hit. So the Eternal Youth thing is just always active with the life recharge. So that's how you can see that this is recharging right now, because Eternal Youth is just always on. But this is obviously not enough to like this sacrifice right now. It's every time I cast this skill, it sacrifices 30% of my health, and my cast speed is like kind of crazy with the setup. Obviously, it doesn't count repeats, which is nice. It only sacrifices once per cast, so all this spell echo repeats and stuff like that don't get additional costs. So it's a bit less than you might think, but it's still a lot. Definitely more than would be supported by Eternal Youth. So that is where some of the other parts of this come in. So first of all, I'm anointing a bit of life on kill. This really helpful mapping. It just goes through all that, and it actually gives you a lot of sustain. Just one of these nodes. It's pretty nice. And then importantly, I'm using Glad for this. So Glad is this weapon master node. I think this node is like pretty bad for almost every character, but I think I'm making decent use out of it here. So I'm using the claw one. That's why I'm using a claw here, which is kind of weird, because spell builds don't usually use claws, because the spell mod pool for claws is really bad. And yes, it is. But the nice part is claws give you 20% instant leech while wielding them, and the instant leech is very, very powerful, as anyone who's tried it out knows. The leech mastery that gives you some instant leech is only 5%, so 20% is a pretty big jump from that, and it is very noticeable. And single target has actually been very reliable for just letting you spam and sacrifice constantly. It's quite nice, actually. So it's been a good solution for that. You can also do something I was doing originally a little bit was using a scepter for this, because that gives you a more AoE multiplier, which is really nice. It makes everything go real crazy. It's already pretty crazy because I'm really invested into AoE, but yeah, I think claw is just better because the instant leech is just really nice. So that is basically how we're sustaining that, and I'm getting leech from the glove implicit here. This gives you chaos damage leeched as life, and the majority of this character's damage is chaos damage, because obviously the sacrifice support adds flat chaos, so this just adds so much flat that it pretty much immediately gets to become the majority of the damage you do. So this leech just applies to most of your damage. I could get Ellie damage leech as well via Do Your Honest Lesson. I would just replace one of these voices with a large passive cluster for that. That could be okay, but yeah, I'm not doing that for now. I don't think I really need to. So this is a build where I wanted to make use out of Echoing Shrine. So I just wanted to try this for the meme. I don't actually think Echoing Shrine is very good, so to say, on one of these builds. Like, I think these builds are generally, I think on some setups, the Acceleration Shrine builds do become better than Mage Blood, but I think a lot of the other ones actually aren't really better than Mage Blood for most characters, I don't think. Echoing is a bit of a meme, I think. It gives you, like, infinite damage, but then also makes your character kind of uncontrollable, and it's usually, I don't think, really worth doing on characters outside of, like, Valor Runners or something. But, you know, it's the, I just want to try out one of these belts before the end of the league, so yeah, I got one of these. So basically I'm getting my movement through and just frost blinking around, because this just goes real quick, which is nice. And also with all these setup, you see that basically like frost blink does quite a bit of damage on its own, because you know, you just sock it in, sacrifice support into the frost blink, and then it gets all that flat as well, and all the percent scaling, so it's like not bad at all, the frost blink damage. So like in not omega juiced content, it's actually not too bad. But yeah, otherwise the Echoing just, you know, super ramps the cold snap and just makes it go even crazier, which would be nice. But I will say you could probably just start an Acceleration Massive here and just take the 40% less damage thing or whatever, and then just probably have a nicer character, because it is a little it's a little wacky doing Echoing. It's like you don't really have much movement speed outside of that, as you see, so you're pretty reliant on Frost Blink. So it's you know, it's a bit of a meme, but you know, it's actually okay. It's not too bad. But yeah, it's been pretty fun, and obviously this is like one of the Giga Juice double shrine belts, so you get the massive shrine on top of that for the life scaling and the AoE, which is two things that this character really wants. So yeah, in order to hit that cold snap AoE, the 4.8 radius, you really do have to invest quite a bit into it. So I am pretty much just hitting a 4.8 on this character. If you were doing the Scepter with Weapon Master, I'd be quite a lot above it. But yeah, since I'm doing the Claw, I'm pretty much just hitting it. So the way I'm doing that is I'm getting, first of all, I'm getting AoE on like a bunch of just Jewel Corruptions, like pretty much all these small ones have random AoE rolls. And then also, since this is a life scaling build, this is an Adorn build, so Adorn is one of my favorite items, so I'm pretty happy to be able to socket this in here. It's not the most, you know, adorned, juiced up build ever, because right now I'm actually only using 4 Adorn Jewels. So it's only like these here, and then I have like 2 and 1 there, and then 1 here. One somewhere else. But yeah, I'm only using 4, I think, right now. And these Adorn Jewels all have AoE on the implicit, so those get scaled and doubled. And then also, importantly, I'm just using a bunch of medium clusters. This is sort of a way you get a bunch of AoE on your character, generally, sort of how you do it. So these with a certain dominance and towering threat. So a certain dominance gives you a % life and also AoE, which is nice. Obviously, % life, really powerful. You want as many of those as possible on this character. And then the certain dominance is just a really nice 25% increased AoE mod, which is pretty efficient for on point. Obviously, it's if you've killed 5 enemies recently, but you know, with the Shrine Belt, and since we're doing the Writhing Jars, this, you just have this always, because you can always just spawn some worms and then you get some kills. So it's very easy to actually just have this, even single target. So yeah, that's what all these are pretty much, and just always towering threat and assert dominance. And then I have one that also has towering threat, but then instead of assert dominance, I have overwhelming malice, which gives you the wither on hit, because since we're doing so much chaos damage, wither is just a really powerful thing to have in your character. And obviously, since the character is like omega crit capped, this is just always on, and since it hits so much with all the overlaps, you get max wither pretty much immediately, which is quite nice. And then other defenses. So defensively, you really have to work on defenses for Dissolution characters, because the damaging elements get really annoying. Like basically anything that gives you like a dot or something become really quite annoying to deal with. Because obviously you need to not take damage for 2 seconds in order to reset your Dissolution, so things that just tick you down constantly stop that from happening, so it's pretty bad. So you want to be able to deal with that properly. So the way I'm dealing with that is, first of all, we're doing a Sublime Vision, Purity of Fire. So this is the classic setup of you just Tempered by War Sublime Vision with a Watcher's Eye in order to convert all your cold and lightning damage taken to fire damage. This makes all the ailments caused by hit damage other than fire not apply, because you need to hit with the actual element and do damage with it in order to get the ailment from it. So if you convert everything to fire, suddenly you can't get, a shock or a chill or whatever from hit damage. Things like ground effects still do apply, but hit damage gets removed with that, so that's kind of nice. And then I have this Watcher's Eye with a triple Purity mod, which gives you Ignite Immune and Burning Ground Immune, so that covers those two, which is really nice. And then I'm getting full bleed immunity from just 10 tattoos, tattooing my strength nodes, so that's really nice. And then obviously CB immune from a jewel, and yeah, Tempest Shield, which gives you shock immunity, and yeah, it's just pretty. It's basically element immune to anything that matters. Like brittle ground, I guess, would give you some crit, but for that, I have a crit reduction on this chest, and I have the ability to also take this mastery here for some more crit reduction for 80%. I could also then take some tattoos in order to get that to 100, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, that's sort of the core defenses there. It's very potent, I think, and then obviously the Glad Lock, as I mentioned earlier, is really, really good. So these layers all together makes the character feel really, really tanky, actually. It's one of the, as I mentioned earlier, it's one of the factors I was worried about initially. But it turned out better than expected, honestly. It's quite nice. The way we're getting this big life pool is using apostate, so this is, you know, probably the best way of just getting a large max pool right now on items. So this converts your max energy shield from your armor items into max life. So all the energy shield you see up top on these items from your shield and from your helmet and boots and gloves all get converted to flat max life, which is pretty potent. So that gives you a lot of flat life, and then you scale that with a bunch of percents. You take basically just a bunch of life nodes on the tree. Adorn's obviously quite nice with life stacking because you can get percent life off these jewels, and it's one of those stats that's just kind of rare to get in general. Percent life is you know, outside the tree. There's a limited source of those stats, so it's kind of nice using your Adorn for that. And then, you know, reflecting some rings with flat life as well, and then getting flat life off the amulet as well. So just stacking life pretty much everywhere in order to reach this sort of number. I mean, you can get higher than this. You can get like 22, 23k. This character setup is a little bit unoptimized right now. Maybe I'll fix it a little bit before I add the pop to the character. But basically, I'm currently band-aid taking these two nodes because I just haven't really fixed my my dex in somewhere. I think I need like 5 decks on this character, and I just took this temporarily. I think I'm going to get it from just upgrading some of these medium clusters, so like have tier 1 rolls of decks, instead of right now, which I have a bunch of tier 2s, so if I manage to upgrade those, I'll probably get enough decks to fix that, and then the int I can probably just fix somewhere else. But basically I just put this character together just pretty recently, so it's early days still. Then as for gear-wise, so yeah, we're doing Gull. Obviously, Gull is just really good. Scales your Massive Shrine, importantly. Gives you more life, gives you more AoE, which is really cool. And then also does scale the Echoing, because, you know, the cast speed there does get scaled, so it's a fair bit of damage as well. It's just really efficient. Like, if you're doing Shrine Bell stuff, you're doing the Gull. Like, I'm sure we're all familiar with that right now. And then Amulet is just a Reflected Simplex, classic setup. Boots, right now I'm doing just Tailwind Onslaught boots, as per usual. I just really like those boots. Just such a nice pair of boots to get. Here, I'm using the Chaos Res as a suffix, because that is something I need to cap, obviously, since, you know, we're not CI or anything. So yeah, I'm using Chaos Res on the suffix there, and then I'm getting some life and some ES. Eventually, I will lock slam this to have tier 1% ES. I just haven't really done that yet. And then, importantly, I have the Avoid Chill move speed, which is nice, because Chill Ground is a thing that exists on a lot of maps, so getting Avoid Chill somewhere is pretty important, and it's actually quite tricky to get specifically Avoid Chill, so it's nice getting that on the boots. So that is definitely the move speed I would want on this character. For the gloves, these are just like a big stat stick, basically. So for the prefixes, importantly, it's just big tier 1 ES rolls for the Apostate, and then a tier 1 life roll, and then for the suffixes, it's basically just fixing things on the character. So I'm getting the last of my Chaos Res, and then also getting a dex roll on there, because I need that for my requirements. This is not a Supreme Ostentation build, unfortunately. So obviously I need to do Sublime Pure Fire, so I need Tempered by War, so Supreme Ostentation unfortunately isn't an option, so I do need to solve attributes, but it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, tier 1 dex roll on there is nice. Rings, just reflected heal goals as per usual. I'm doing life, cast speed, and multi, I think is the nicest part here, which feels the best and just gives the most damage, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, for the shield, obviously Wrathpith. And then for the weapon, as I mentioned, I'm doing a Claw right now just for the weapons mastery for the instant leech, which I think it's definitely worth it. It's a little annoying. The Claw mod pool is really bad for spells. This craft, which kind of looks like Omega Ass, is actually like the optimal craft, I think. There are just no prefixes, and you kind of want the unveiled double damage on the suffix, so you have to just craft on the spell damage one there. It's not very good. There's an avenue I want to take with this eventually, where I think I might swap back to Scepter, because it is a little sad looking at this. This is just a temporary little claw here that I use, but yeah, this is probably sort of what you want. Cast speed, multi, and that spell damage roll. The nice part about this claw as well is it gives you that 10% chance to get power charge on kill. It is nice to get power charge on kill somewhere for this setup, because obviously, Cold Snap Power, when you get 100% chance to gain a power charge on crit, it just breaks even, right? You get one charge for a hit, and then you just expend that to hit again, so you know, breaks even. It doesn't actually gain charges, so you need to gain charges from somewhere else in order to actually be at full charges when you are cold snapping, and you do want to be on full charges for the crit and all that. So the way I'm doing that right now is, first of all, in the Frostblink setup, I just have power charge on crit on there as an imbue. So whenever I Frostblink, I do gain power charges as well, which is nice. That basically covers that. And then also I'm getting power charge on crit off the Claw implicit right now. It basically makes it so that you are sure to always be at max power charges when you're hitting things, which is pretty nice. And then, yeah, for the passive tree, which I've already shown, it's basically just classic voices setup, since we're stacking stuff into medium clusters. There is an avenue where you could replace one of these voices with a large passive cluster with a bunch of cast speed. So you can do one of these large passive clusters instead of one of the voices. So a 12 passive with increased cast speed and then increased attack and cast speed with cold skills, and then increased effect of small passive skills, and also in a flat max life. These are really, really potent damage-wise. They're actually better damage than one of these voices setups. The problem with that is it's slightly better damage, not like a lot better damage. And then it's less survivability because you're just getting less pure life than these sort of setups. And also it gives you a ton of cast speed, where you would be sacrificing even more, and you'd have to work on your sustain even more to support it. So it'd be pretty tricky there. So I think overall the voice setups are better, but that is an avenue you could do. Otherwise, yeah, we're doing Sublime for Pure Fire. I'm doing taking Unwavering Stance here because I don't want to get stunned. That does actually happen sometimes in boss fights or whatever you do. Sometimes actually get stunned even with this health pool, which is pretty wacky. But yeah, taking that to not get that, which is quite good. And then it's basically just getting a bunch of life nodes and then not much else. I am taking a little bit of investment in order to get my block cap on, so I am taking these block nodes here, and I'm taking these As the Mountain nodes here. But those are the only things I'm investing in block right now. I'm basically only have that, and like 2 block tattoos, so it's really not that much in order to get fully block capped. Obviously, that's because Glad gives you this thing where it sets your shield block chance to 50% instead of whatever it is. So Wrath Pit on its own is obviously just a 25% block chance shield, so it's actually a really nice little bonus there. You get 25 attack block for that Ascendancy, which is not bad at all. So it's pretty solid, so actually getting block cap is not really that big of a deal. But yeah, this tree is a little inefficient for the reason of, you know, I'm currently taking some random reservation nodes for Themoras, and yeah, these 2 stat nodes I'm eventually going to just drop because I need to fix those elsewhere. Another really nice part defensively with this setup is no map mods really do anything to you. I guess that's just the nature of life stacking, but yeah, like no regen is fine, no leech is fine. Like this max source doesn't really matter because you're just blocking everything. Yeah, I don't know, no artifact is fine, doesn't do anything, and yeah, like basically all that stuff is just really fine, so you can just run whatever. Right now I am not actually reflect immune, so that is one that I can't really do, unfortunately, but that's very easily fixable if you want to bother. You basically just take this Pantheon for the 50%, then either you can get it on this ring, or you just take the Protection Master. You'd probably take this one. Just a few points, and these nodes are good anyway, so it's really not that big of a cost at all. So you just do that and become Reflective Immune, and then basically you can just do literally any map. So that is that's very nice. Makes rolling maps a little easier as well. And as for guard skill, we are using Immortal Call on this character. I think it's just probably the best one. I am getting a charge generation via my Lethal Pride, so I'm getting Indoors on Kill off of this node right here. So I'm getting some Indoors charge on there. I also have 2 min charges on this amulet, so this Immortal Call does have some charges to eat, which is nice. And importantly, I am using this automation, which is not ideal. Obviously, it is better to use it with Cast and Damage Taken. The reason I'm doing this is this is a really nice way of proccing Arcane Surge. So Arcane Surge is a little tricky to proc on this character because obviously I'm life tapping like pretty much everything. Like my main skill is life tapped, and my Frostbank is life tapped, my Curse is life tapped. So everything's like life tapped. So you need to actually spend mana, like actual mana, in order to get Arcane Surge. So I can't really get it normally with any of these skills, and I do want to use Arcane Surge support as one of the supports on my actual skill, because it's just a lot of extra damage, like 35% more spell damage and stuff. So it's just a really good support gem. So the way I'm getting Arcane Surge right now is I just use automation on Immortal Call with the Arcane Surge support on there. If I get more unreserved mana, you can just imbue this onto level 20 Immortal Call, and that would save us a socket here, but I can't do that right. But yeah, that is because basically this makes this Immortal Call just keep casting, and every time it casts, since it's spending a little bit of mana, it procs the level 1 Arcane Surge, and it just lets you have permanent Arcane Surge uptime, which enables the support gem and gives you the cast speed and everything like that. So that's just what we're doing right there. And also you're getting the Immortal Call, which is a little bit nice. But yeah, eventually I want to solve to where I can level this up properly to actually have it imbued, and then probably maybe throw more duration on there or something like that, instead of having the actual socket for the Arcane Surge. Like imbuing it and then doing more duration is probably the way to go to get more uptime, which would be kind of nice. But yeah, for now I'm doing this, which is working out pretty well. So this is the current POB of the character. I might update this a little bit in order to optimize it a little bit before I put it on the video. But yeah, this is the actual POB of the character. You can see that the damage is really high right now. And this is just basically, I mean, this is legitimately what it is. There's no really conditions here or anything. It's just straight up, you just get a billion DPS with all the overlaps and shit. Obviously, you need to be able to sacrifice. That's the thing here. But as long as you can support the sacrifice, this is actually just the number you get, which is, it's pretty wild. And this can go even higher than what I have on the setup. But yeah, right now that's the setup, and obviously you're quite tanky. This, I believe, is actually with a Immortal Call. Let me untick that real quick. That's the guard skill we're using. Oh yeah, I didn't mention either. We are using Moras, so obviously Pure Fire for the Sublime, and then I'm using Tempest Shield, Arctic Armor, and hair lice. That's what we're doing right now. Arctic Armor is obviously really good because it gives you less physical and fire damage, and with the Pure Fire setup, you swap all the elemental damage you take into Pure Fire, so the less fire damage taken from Arctic Armor actually does apply to all of your LA damage, so it's quite potent. And with this build, you're basically frostmaking around all the time, so you're stationary pretty much always, so it's pretty good. And then for the Curse, I'm using Despair, which is quite nice. And yeah, so the defensively very good. Glad Block really solid. I think Glad Block feels really good, especially when you have like a good defensive core underneath it as well. There is an avenue on this character to Giga scale it, which I do want to try out. It is doing Witch Mark. So there is this mastery. Let's, I guess, use this. So if we do this, so there's this Rune Grab of the Witch Mark, which gives you spell steal added chaos damage equal to 2% of your max life, and then gives these spells 8% life as a base cost. So if you do this, it doesn't do much on its own, but when you have this on and you spec it, you get a little bit of damage on its own, obviously, but then what you do is you take this node right here, so it's the other Ritual Ascendancy node, so skills gain added chaos damage equal to 25% of life cost, and then they get a base life cost equal to 100% of base mana cost. So you can see what that does to the numbers there. This, alongside that Witch Mark tattoo, gives you some absurd damage, the way it'll scale with this amount of life. So you can see this pushes the character to like 3 bill. The problem with this is it's, the life cost becomes, you're almost your entire life pool. The way you would solve this is you'd probably do Tainted Pact on the character. So Tainted Pact is an amulet that makes chaos damage heal you, and then you self-poison to just get like infinite recovery. That would actually be able to sustain this sort of setup. I do want to try that out. That sounds kind of fun because, the big numbers is good. Obviously, it wouldn't quite be this big because you would have to like, you would have to, change your amulet out. So it'd probably only be around 2 bill or something with that setup, but that could be really potent because then you would also not have to do the leech thing because you would have just Tainted Pact up all the time. So you can swap that out for something else. I think with that setup, you probably would do a Slayer. You do Brutal Fervor because this doubles the leech instant duration, basically. So that gives you a lot more uptime on Tainted Pact. I think there's definitely something there. I need to pop that and try that out, but that might be an avenue to take this character eventually. But for now, we're just doing this, and it's quite fine on its own. But yeah, I think that's sort of the general overview of what I'm doing this character right now. Quick one here. I didn't want to go too hard on this. But yeah, just put this together, basically. It's very fun. Cold Snap Power is the skill that I gotta say, that's the takeaway here. I really enjoy Cold Snap Power as a skill, and it feels really good. Like, the instant cast nature of it, the really fast cast speed, the shatter, the sound effects, it's all good stuff. And you also get like Herald Wise scaling. So that was one of the things with this character. Originally, I started off popping this as a charge stacker on Slayer because I wanted to scale Herald Wise damage a lot, and you can get a lot of generic % damage from charge stacking on Slayer. But I ended up just popping this, over and over again, and eventually just Lifestack just became more and more potent looking, so I ended up just swapping to that, which means that the actual Herald of Ice damage on this build actually isn't very high, so this is probably not going to chain too much on this character at all, even though I am currently doing Scornful Herald just in case, get some of that, like maybe if you get enough head armor buffs, because obviously this is a character that we do use the Inspired Learnings still. I think just every character kind of wants these right now if you're not doing a head armor. I think these jewels are just really potent since you can just put them in clusters, so I'm doing this still for the double, so we're still getting a bunch of head armor buffs, which is pretty good. I think there probably is a case where some of those stack up enough to make this do quite a bit of damage, because sometimes I do chain, I noticed, but it's pretty rare, because there's just no real scaling to this on this character, because all the life scaling, I've looked a lot, and there's no real way of getting like generic scaling from life stacking as far as I know. There's like that one weapon that gives you like flat fire that gives you a little bit of percent, but that weapon's like garbage anyway. So there's no real way of getting generic out of this, unfortunately. And Heraldalize is a little wacky because it doesn't scale with like spell damage or whatever, so you need generic scaling, and that's not really something you get from life stacking, unfortunately. But it's still really nice. It still has a really big AoE from all the AoE scaling we have, and yeah, I have an enhanced in here to have it even bigger, so that's sort of part of why the skill, the build looks so crazy, because the Herald stuff everywhere, and it just looks really nice, even though it maybe doesn't do the most damage. But yeah, build's really cool. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I'm gonna keep playing this and streaming this for the foreseeable future. I think I'm definitely on board with League yet, so yeah, this character, having a lot of fun with it. There's a couple of things I want to solve. I want to try the Tainted Pact thing out. I want to try and get some more passive move speed on this character somewhere. Maybe like even just socketing in the, like phase run or something. Automation might help with that, or just looting and whatever. That might be kind of good. Try that out. Yeah, and that might be sort of an area. But this is sort of the I guess day one or whatever, week one update of this character. But yeah, I'll tweak and work on this in the future, and probably have a couple more update videos on that as well. But yeah, a lot of fun. Nice getting to try out Echoing Shrine. I want to try, even though it's probably mostly a meme. It's fun to try, and it's something I wanted to get my hands on before the league was over. So thanks for watching. We'll be back more in the future, and probably craft stuff with this character, and do more build updates and stuff, because I am still going to be working on this for sure. I'll be streaming it as well, so if you want to check that out, you can. But yeah, that's cool. All right, see you guys in the next one.